Well, you don't have to go to Africa to sleep in a luxurious safari tent. You can go fancy camping or glamping in the south of France. If you don't know, glamping is a combo word for glamour and camping. If you glamp in Provence, forget the beer and the beer coolers and beans. Instead, you will sip champagne, dine on duck confit, and get a croissant delivered to you in the morning by Canadian-born entrepreneur, former BCer Fanny Crichton. She and her husband Hans found a way to live their French dream. They run a business in Provence called Imagine France, and it is my pleasure, c'est mon plaisir, to welcome Madame Fanny Crichton back home.
Thank you very much, Fanny.
Does this feel like home to you?
Yeah, I think once a Canadian, always a Canadian. And of course, I still have my family here. I do come back and visit my mom. We still have our mom and my sister who's brought me here today. And yeah, it is still home. It's been a long time. I've been gone for 23 years, but it's still home.
23?
Yeah,
because
23
I
years.
remember long ago you ran a lingerie shop on Robson and Thurlow, so that must have been
Yeah,
24
that's even more.
years ago.
Exactly. It's even more years. But yeah, it's not there anymore. It's a White Spot 000, I believe. But yes, born in Calgary, raised in Kitts, West Vancouver, and then as a young businesswoman in downtown Vancouver. Yeah.
Fitting bras.
Fitting bras, fitting a lot of different things. Of course, the area is quite, yeah, everyone's into everything, let's say. So it was a wonderful experience. And after that, I went to work for Nygaard International.
Okay.
So I was still in retail until...
So still the rag trade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still retail.
Yeah. And then
but there's something about lingerie that smells French, doesn't it? So somehow...
It must have been the starting path. Yeah, it must have been the starting path. But then met my husband, who is a Dutchman, not a Frenchman, and went to Holland for 15 years, and now we've gone down to France.
So you met the Dutchman in Canada or the Dutchman in Europe?
In Hawaii.
Tell me the whole story.
No, we met in Hawaii on vacation. Yeah, that's the way it happens sometimes.
Yeah, kismet.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Vancouverites know, Hawaii is a great place to go. You're not far from home, same language, you've got instant heat. And so it was, yeah, one time that I went, and there he was.
So did you have a little girl dream? One day I will live in Europe and I perhaps will live in Paris.
No, not at all.
Study fashion.
I thought I'd be in Vancouver for the rest of my life. Yeah, was never a dream, and particularly also with vacations, because didn't have vacation time enough to go on long trips to Europe. So stayed very local and really never had an introduction to Europe until moving to Holland. Yeah.
And then moving to Provence.
Absolutely, and we did from Holland. We vacationed in France and Provence, and in all honesty, it reminded me a lot of British Columbia. Holland is very small, and you can reach out and touch your neighbor, but you got to Provence and you had that BC feeling again. It was green, it was lush, it was a lot of space. So it was always attractive.
And how did this begin? Little house in Provence or what?
Yeah, that's exactly what the thought was. We thought we would downsize in Holland and have a small home in Holland and a small house in France. But with the search in France, it just started to take on a whole other dimension, because realty in France is something that is very different. And
How so?
How so? Nobody really does any work for you, but they're happy to take the commission at the end of the deal. So you do your own work. And so a lot of searching and a lot of information. And finally, it just developed that if we bought a tiny little home, we'd probably never sell it when we wanted to retire there. So we started looking at bigger homes, and one big home fell into the picture, which had the possibility to then do rentals. So no home in Holland.
Dare I ask you, and I know it was a while ago and you don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but how much does home in Provence cost today?
Today, I don't mind saying, but we bought 5 years ago, but we've just recently been valued on our property, in any case, at 850,000 euros. So, and I'm not right up on the translation, or I think it'd be about $1 million.
Right, sure.
Canadian.
So we're just all figuring how we can sell our homes or our apartments here and move to France.
Yeah,
and for 850,000, we can do that.
Yeah, and,
euros.
Yes, euros. But we have also a big piece of property, so you don't have to have the property all the time. You can have anything between 4 and 5 is beautiful with a pool, and below that, you probably wouldn't get a pool.
So take me to the pool, take me to, I assume it's a dream.
Yeah, it is.
What goes on at Imagine France?
Well, we're open from April until the beginning of April to the end of October. What happens? Guests arrive every Saturday. We're weekly rentals. The tents are including breakfast every morning, which I deliver to them at their tents. People arrive on a Saturday afternoon. It's immediately a sparkling wine and a little bit of something luscious to eat at the pool. Everyone gets settled. They get their idea of how the compost toilet works. That's very important that they learn that. And then it just moves into, fun vacations.
So these tents are not like the tents I grew up sleeping in. Oh, no.
No.
So there's a wet room in the tent?
Yep.
Describe it.
Well, the tents are designed above ground, needless to say. Beautiful terraces. One main sleeping area, you could call it. So we have a huge double bed and two smaller beds that fold out for children. And the wet room at the back is a jet shower, a compost toilet, which funnily enough comes from a company in Canada. And everything is just very, very private.
And getting a compost toilet from Canada to France, what was that like?
It was no easy feat, but we did.
Bet. A little red tape.
A little red tape. But finally they arrived at the Marseille airport and we were able to bring them home.
And when you call the French plumber, maybe Hans can do it, I'm not sure, but you call the French plumber and say, can you fix all of this and put this all together?
Yeah.
How is it different? Building something in Provence, in France.
Yeah, it's very different. Hans and I actually built the tent platforms and hung the tents ourselves. But yes, the plumbing and getting the toilet fixtures, it is, well, I'll tell you, our plumber, who we got in the very beginning, his name was Mr. Chaudet. And everyone used to say, oh, you have the plumber, Mr. Chaudet. And I would say, yes, but unfortunately I make an appointment with him and he doesn't come. And friends would say, well, that's because he's called No-Show Chaudet. It's like, oh, the light went on. So it is difficult from time to time to get the service that you've been accustomed to, whether it be in Canada or in Holland.
Sure.
It's a very laid-back lifestyle. And,
I had a friend who did this in Italy.
Yeah.
Same experience.
Same experience. And you can have somebody doing some work in the morning and they leave for lunch and lo and behold, they don't come back. So the work...
So I went for lunch.
Yeah, the work doesn't get finished and it's interesting.
I'm sure it is. And challenging. It sounds like you're living the dream, but there must be some hard slogging. When you're running an alfresco hotel, 2 tents, sleep 4 each.
Yes.
A honeymoon cottage to come or honeymoon tent to come. And then you have a little apartment, a gîte.
Yes.
Now that says to me, laundry,
Yes.
maintenance,
Yes.
cooking.
Yes. Now the laundry I've sorted, I send that out now, so that's not an issue. I do all the cooking myself. So I am delivering. If I sit full capacity, I'm full in the tents with 8, so that's 8 breakfasts every morning. The gîte is independent, so they can also order breakfast separately, but they would have to pay separately. The tents include the breakfast. And then evening meals, because the tents are in our, we have a forest of 4.5 hectares, so they can't cook, because we can't take the risk of, fire.
Right.
So 2 times a week, I do a table d'hôte in our inner courtyard.
Which means?
Which means that they can come to dinner cooked by me. And they have to book that in advance. It's 2 nights a week, and otherwise they go to the village or where they would like to go.
Were you much of a cook?
I've always loved cooking.
When you left Canada?
Well, actually, I would say the Canadian living inspired me. Yeah, seriously, I loved cooking when I left, but I was single and I wasn't doing a lot of it. And once I got to Europe, everything, all the ingredients just seemed so much different and different spices. And then France, of course, then it really took off.
So have you convinced the local farmers, I bet you have, to deliver fresh herbs and fresh everything, or do you have the garden, or how does this work?
I don't have a garden myself yet. I would love to, but it's a lot of extra work, and I don't have the time for that because once the season starts, I do work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So I have 2 lovely women separately, but 2 farms close by, and I can call them and say, I've got dinner tonight, I've got 12 coming, can you put together a vegetable basket? So it's sort of sometimes a surprise for me what I cook, too, depending on the ingredients that are available.
Well, it makes sense, and I know in Europe they shop daily often. You don't go to the big box store and load up.
Fill up. Yeah, no.
No.
We do it very fresh and very daily. And, if I'm cooking I do the tents, I do something that I call tent service. I will also deliver an evening meal to their tent, but it's a little bit more expensive than the courtyard family sort of style. But that's 4 courses, including wine, and so I bring that to them in the evening, and what they get is absolutely what you say, depending on what is fresh during the day.
All romantic.
Yeah, it is very
Maybe
nice.
not if you've got the 6-year-old.
Well, yeah,
The
but
2-year-old with you. But how romantic. And wine, you say?
Yes,
You're
exactly.
making the wine, the neighbor's making the wine.
we don't make our own wine, but we are in the valley of the Côte d'Aron, so we are absolutely surrounded by wine. And one of my dearest friends makes a beautiful wine in the area, so I do tend to promote her a lot. But any wine that you drink in our area is drinkable. It's just refreshing and lovely. And it's not a very heavy wine. It's usually about 13.5%, which is a nice way to go.
Well, a French friend of mine told me when in Paris, you don't go to the bar and order a glass of wine. They know you're North American. Right? You order something else, like
Yes.
a kir.
Yes, you can do a kir, which is often the cocktail that I serve as an arrival cocktail, and that is the sparkling wine with a little bit of cassis in the bottom. No,
Apparently they
very
can
popular.
spot us.
Yes, exactly. They
Not-
can.
Not just because of our drinking habits, but they know we're North American.
Yeah, exactly. But once there, I mean, you do as the Parisians do. Eventually, you will just be ordering your cur as well instead of a glass of wine.
Okay, we'll return with Polly Crichton, who is living her dream, and she's working hard too.